What's up, guys? My name is DJ Swivel, and on this episode of In the Mix, I'm going to be breaking down Dua Lipa's song Homesick featuring Chris Martin. It's a song I mixed a few years ago, and I thought, you know, it was appropriate. Holidays, a lot of people didn't make it home this year, myself included. I thought it was the perfect song. But before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell. Do what you got to do. Run the intro.
DJ Swivel in the mix.
What's up, guys? My name is DJ Swivel, and we're back for another In the Mix, the first In the Mix for 2021. Hope you all had great holidays. You know, for me, unfortunately, my family's in Canada. I live in Los Angeles. I couldn't really travel these holidays, and so I was feeling a little homesick, and it reminded me, a couple years ago, I mixed a song called Homesick for Dua Lipa. I was brought into the project through Chris Martin from Coldplay. I was doing some work with them, and he invited me in to mix this song. He wrote and produced it. And I thought this song was perfectly appropriate because I'm sure there's a lot of you who could not go home for the holidays this year. And so we're going to dive into Homesick by Dua Lipa. And I also thought it was a great song to dive into because, you know, the first two In the Mixes that I've done was sort of a, you know, a pop EDM record with BTS, a more urban pop record, hip hop record with Lil Nas X. And I wanted to show a little bit of versatility and that, you know, you can get great, big, rich, full sounding mixes with a very simple song like this. So this is Homesick by Dua Lipa. Now, let's just look at the whole, this is the whole mix. There's not a whole lot going on here, but there's a few things worth paying attention to. We've got 3 tracks of piano. We have this reverse vocal reverb, which I added, which I will show you guys how to do. And then we've got 4 Dua Lipa vocals, and we've got 4 Chris Martin vocals. And then the rest is just, you know, some time-based sends. So reverbs, delays, doublers, things like that. And of course we have our master fader. Okay, so how do I approach a mix like this? Let's start there. You know, I typically try to approach what is the most important thing in the track and start there and then build around it. So in a song like this, obviously your vocal is the most important thing. But typically, you know, the vocal has to live with what's happening in the track. So I start with what's happening in the track. And obviously, we just have a piano. So it makes it very easy. You can start right on the piano and get that sounding right. And then once you get that piano sounding right, where it's rich and full and exactly what you're going for, then you can start worrying about how do you get that vocal to fit in with the piano and make them glue together. So anyways, I start with the piano. Let's just quickly take a look at this piano performance. You'll notice it's very, very dynamic. Lots of peaks, like this here, for example, this here. Towards the end, we got some nice peaks, and then the end here gets louder. And lots of valleys, lots of quiet moments as well. That's like key to really just great production is you want to have peaks and valleys, and you want the listener to feel like they're on a roller coaster ride, and you're sort of bringing them along, and there's excitement through the whole thing. And this is also indicative of the fact that this is a live piano. I suspect this is a piano that Chris played himself live, and it was mic'd up. And you'll actually, once I start playing it, you'll hear it. You'll be able to hear the pedal noise, and it's not perfect, but that's the point. It's honest. It's real. And so, anyways, when you're working with any sort of acoustic sound like this, you're typically going to have to compress it and tighten it up just to get it to feel really in your face. And also, you know, I got to be careful with a song like this that I don't over compress it, because part of what makes a song like this is the dynamics of the performance. We want these louder parts. We want these quiet parts. So if I just get overly aggressive with a compressor, it's just going to feel very linear and straight. And that's not what we're going for. Okay, so what did I use to process this piano? Well, let's just take a look. I have this Lindell Channel X. This is like a Pultec style channel strip. What am I doing? I have a little bit of a little bit of gain on the preamp, a little bit of high boost, very, very little low boost at 60 hertz here. The high boost is at 10K. And I have this analog function on, which adds a little low level noise. And I have a bit of a high pass filter going on. What am I filtering up to? Oh, this plugin, about 70 hertz right there. And what else? I have a little bit of compression, medium attack, medium release. I don't want to do anything too crazy here. And you'll notice the mix is quite low, right? I'm not heavily compressing it. So I've got like a decent compression level, then I dial the mix back so you're getting some parallel compression there. And then we have some EQ, a little bit of boosting at 10K. And then we have, and that's got a medium bandwidth, medium narrow bandwidth. And then we've got a little bit of boosting at 100 hertz here. And you'll notice no attenuation. So I'm not pulling, the way that these Pultec style EQs work is if you want to lower the frequency, well, you don't just like dial it back. You have, moving up on this would actually be, lowering the amount of low end. So anyways, we're not doing any lowering. We're just adding. And then there's the analog function is on here, and that's all adding some low level noise. All right, enough of me talking. Let's just listen to what the piano in the verse is doing. Okay. Why don't I open the channel strip just so we can see what we're looking at here. Sorry, I will solo it. Here we go. So you'll notice in this first verse, there's not a ton of compression happening. There is some moments that it catches. But again, that's with the intent of maintaining dynamics. And if we listen towards the end of this part of the piano performance here, you'll notice there's a lot more compression happening. And again, that's just the nature of the performance. We want those peaks. We want those valleys. Okay. What else am I doing on the piano here? I have a little bit of stereo imaging happening, and also a little bit of sort of like mid-range, mid-high boosting here. And that's about it. And there's like some very, very subtle compression on this vitalizer as well. Okay. Well, enough of me. Why don't we just A/B the piano raw and then with what I've added. Okay, so you can immediately hear it when when this is bypassed, right? Blue equals bypassed. When it's bypassed, it's still a great piano performance, but we want to give it a little bit of life. And as soon as you add this stuff, it does add some life. And what else do we have? We have a little bit of a send going to a piano delay, which is right here. And, it's just a simple quarter note delay. Equal on both left and right side. Really nothing. I mean, it doesn't get any simpler than that. It's a quarter note delay with sort of a, the feedback is only at 13%, so it's not going to ring out too long. And the low pass filter, it's filtered down to almost 7K, 6,800 hertz. So none of the high frequencies. So you get this warm piano sound in there. And let's see if you can hear the delay. Let me just play like an end part of the piano, and you'll just hear kind of how subtle the delay is. You catch that? Very, very, very subtle. It stops real quick because it's only 13% feedback, but I'll play it one more time. Let me play a louder part. So once I hit stop, you could hear that echo ring out. Very short. I think you maybe get like one or two, echoes playback. Okay, so that is the main piano, and there's not a whole lot of difference to what's happening on the other pianos. There is some subtle stuff. If you look, the channel strips here that I'm using on these tracks, the settings are slightly different. This one towards the end, it's a little louder. It didn't need as any of the low boosting. Just subtly making sure that they line up and match. I suspect these are identical, so it's the same stereo imaging happening on them. And I have a little EQ, which is just taking out this there was a very strange frequency at 12K that was sort of, it wasn't even poking out very often. It was just very subtle on certain, like a little squeak, almost when the foot pedal moved. And so this is just getting rid, it's a very, very narrow bell curve, just getting rid of some of that. But in the context of the actual performance, this does not change the sound of the piano at all. Okay. So, and then we've got the two main pianos, and then we have a harmony piano over here. And this, I suspect, is doing exactly what the first piano is doing. Almost. There's a little bit of difference, a little bit more compression happening on it. And these are the same. So the piano is largely one setting. Okay, so let's focus on the vocals then. You'll notice that these vocals, there is a lot going on visually here, right? And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know, vocal performance is so important. And getting the right takes is so important. And when you have a song like this, where it's all about the vocal performance, you got to make sure that you're using the best of the best. And so you want to record the artist 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 times. It doesn't matter. As many takes as you need in order to get a perfect performance. And so what you're seeing here, every single one of these clips that's a different color, right? This is yellow. This is blue. This is a light blue. This is orange, purple. All of these are from different takes. And so this helps put together the perfect vocal performance. So that's where we start, is Dua cutting a great vocal and then getting the right takes. So I can't stress this enough. This is not, it's a team effort to make these songs sound as good as they do. And I did not record Dua on this, but the engineer who did a great job of comping a fantastic vocal and making sure that Dua sounded amazing, and I had what I needed to work with. So I just want to give a shout out. I'm not sure who did it. It might have been Bill Rocco, who is Coldplay's engineer, or it might have been maybe Dua had her own engineer. I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. But either way, so we start with a great vocal take, and what are we doing? Well, let's go through it. There's a lot happening on it. So we have a little bit of auto-tune. The retune speed is set to 50, which is actually quite low. So this is a very soft auto-tune setting. And this is normal, right? This has nothing to do with Dua's ability as a singer. I will take this auto-tune off and she's going to sound phenomenal. But we are programmed as listeners to hear things with like perfect sounding pitch, and having auto-tune on it just kind of controls everything in a way that makes sure that it's like really centered on the pitch line. Obviously, she's a soprano, but really she's probably more like an alto tenor. But it doesn't matter. The soprano setting picked it up. We're in F sharp major. Nothing weird or crazy there. Okay, what else? The rest of this is largely my normal vocal channel settings. So I've got a de-esser. which is just sort of picking up on, you know, I'm sure it's quite subtle. Let's see if we can see what's happening to it.
Fighting for you, here where the sky's falling, I'm covered in blue, I'm running then I'm crawling, fighting for you.
So not much, just on the S's, right at the beginning, there's one.
Here where the sky's falling.
And even there, it's not a whole lot. Let's see if I can find another one, just to see how much de-essing we're doing.
All in, but what will I do? And I know I go all in.
She doesn't have a whole lot of S's in this vocal performance. Let's see verse 2.
Abide in my room, angels all over, that watch over you when I'm walking on water.
All right, well, we could sit here all day. The point is, there's not a whole lot of de-essing happening, but just enough to sort of catch what we need. All right, we have a little bit of compression. Let's see what's...
Here where the sky's falling.
So we're getting about 6 dB of compression. We have a little bit of a high pass filter going on to about just over 100 hertz. We're boosting about, what is this, 11.5K. We're boosting that about 3 dB. Boosting a little bit of like 4.5, not much, only about a dB and a half. We're getting rid of some low frequency stuff. Where are we at here? 350 hertz. We're getting rid of a couple dB there because it felt like just slightly a little boomy. And we've got the analog setting on, which adds a little bit of low level noise. On a song like this, you want to add character in any ways that you can. So I like to add these analog things throughout. Okay, so what else? We have another compressor, which is just tightening our vocal a little bit more. Probably not getting a ton, but let's see.
What will I do? And I know I go.
So it's getting maybe 2 dB of compression. All right, then we have another de-esser, which just picks up on certain S's that poke out. It's at a different frequency than the first one, you'll notice. Same plugin, different frequency. And this is just catching, you know, because we add some high frequency sibilants with this EQ here, right? So we're adding 12K. That's gonna increase the volume of those S's. And so we use this to catch the new ones that we added, basically. And then I've got this Lindell channel on it. And we're actually doing some very interesting things here. Now, when you listen to this vocal performance, it's very smooth, it's very clean, but I wanted it to feel very intimate. And so the most important thing that we're doing here, I suspect there's a bit of compression, a bit of EQ. Let's just see.
All my dreams have come true.
So not even much compression happening at all. Actually, none that I could see there. But what we are boosting is right here. We are boosting we're boosting 60 hertz by 5 dB. Now there's a really good reason for that. And it's called the proximity effect. And this was my way of sort of recreating the proximity effect. Proximity effect is something that if you record a vocal and you're very, very close to the mic, like kissing the microphone, your mouth touching it, the closer your mouth gets to it, the more low frequency response you get out of the microphone typically. And this is something very evident in an artist like Billie Eilish. Now, I've never recorded Billie. I don't know her recording process, but when I listen to a Billie Eilish vocal, it sounds like she's whispering, but it's so warm and rich and full because she's very, very close on the mic. Like she literally is kissing the mic. Her lips are probably touching it, if not like they are millimeters away from that microphone. And the purpose of that is to get a full-bodied vocal performance. And so I'm sort of trying to recreate that by adding this low frequency stuff. Now I'm going to go through and I'll A/B everything so you can hear what's going on. I just wanted to go through everything first. So after the Lindell channel strip, we've got a little bit of this sort of Abbey Roads. It's like a high frequency booster. It's adding 2 dB at 10K. It has some sort of harmonic stuff going on with it. And then we have a little bit of multiband compression as well, just catching, this is almost acting like another de-esser even, because we've now added a little bit more high frequency. And this is just catching, again, some of that, what we took out on the first channel strip around that 350 hertz. She's got a very low voice sometimes, Dua. And so sometimes you gotta finesse and massage those low frequencies in the right way. So this is just catching some of those lows that pop out. Let's see how much it's doing.
All my dreams have come true. Still nothing means nothing.
So not catching too much, just enough to really smooth out that vocal performance. All right, so let's do the A/B test. Why don't we go? I'll just solo this vocal, and I'll do it with and without the track. So here we go.
Here where the sky's falling, I'm covered in blue. I'm running, then I'm crawling, fighting for you. When the rain stops, then darling, what will I do? And I know I go all in.
So you can hear it, pretty drastic change. But obviously, when I take everything off, even with no auto-tune, she's singing perfectly. I mean, she really nailed this performance. It sounded great. And her vocal sounds great with nothing on it, but we really want to enhance those characteristics in her voice, and that's what all of this stuff is doing. Okay, now let's get to the time-based effects. So what do we have going on? Well, first, let's move this up because I know we have a ton of automation happening throughout. And let's see what we're doing. So we have the A reverb is going to our large hall-ish, right? Valhalla Vintage. This is one of my favorite plugins. I use it all the time. We have this C reverb, which is going to like this, it's Verb Suite Classics, is going to a setting that it's called Silica Beads. And it's an old setting from Lexicon 480, and it was also on the Lexicon 960. And it's a very long decay time. It says 3.65 seconds. I suspect it's a little longer than that. But either way, it's a several second delay time, and it's all high frequency sizzle. It's just sizzle. And so that's adding a little bit of brightness, a little bit of sharpness to the voice. And then we have this vocal plate. So we've actually got 3 different reverbs on this voice. And the vocal plate is, just a Valhalla vocal plate, simple. It literally, this is the default setting. I think the only difference here is that, we've set the pre-delay to be likely in time. And then what else? We have a long delay, right? Which is, what is it? We have a quarter note delay. With this lo-fi setting, which basically just rolls off everything above 6K. And then we've actually done some additional, like rolling off everything below 342 hertz and everything above 3K. So it's going to have like a warmer, filtered feeling to it. And what else? And then we have a slap delay and a doubler. And by the way, my mix presets are available on djswivel.com for free. All you got to do is provide an email. You can log in and download them, as well as a free sample pack. And it's the same mix presets that I'm kind of largely using here. So if any of this is confusing, go get my free mix templates and you will be able to start off from generally the same place where I'm at. But anyway, so we have a doubler and a slap delay. The slap delay is, 65 milliseconds on one side, 57 on the other. That's adding a little bit of longer stereo sort of slap. And then we have a doubler, which is much, much shorter, which is a 7.3 second delay on the left and a 20-second delay on the right. So much shorter. And there's a little bit of high frequency boosting there. Okay. So that's kind of what we have happening. And then we have some delay throws and little moments where we want to, where we just want to see kind of what is, what we're, or we're doing these delay throws to sort of add effects at certain key moments in the song. So here's a good example. I'll play you the end of this phrase.
But why do I
So you hear that high frequency thing, and that I'm using this throw 1. So we have a quarter note delay. We have a doubler on it, so it's creating a stereo thing. We have alter boy. Now I would typically use my plugin, The Sauce, because it's actually got I think a better formant shifting algorithm. It sounds much cleaner, but at the time I didn't have it, so I was using this. And then of course there's a Valhalla Vintage Verb on that throw. So you're getting a delay, but it's echoed out, it's reverbed out. Sounds very cool. So what are we doing? We're just unmuting it for this one word, and then I have some volume automation on it so it's not so abrupt. Because you can see there's no transient here on this word that we can grab. So if I got rid of this, you'll hear it'll pop out. That to me was too abrupt. And so we have this to soften the entrance of that delay. See, when you do it that way, you don't get that transient. It's not quite as abrupt. It's a little more just smooth. So anyways, that is primarily what's happening on her vocal. And of course, you know, we're leveling everything out. We're making sure, you know, the vocal performance is perfect with our level rides, our vocal rides. So we're plus 0.8 dB here, plus 2.5 dB here, plus 1 dB here. Generally just leveling everything out. This phrase was a little loud, so minus 2.5 dB, minus 3.8 dB. That is how we get a great vocal performance. Okay, so what else are we doing? Towards the end of the song, in the last phrase, this is worth mentioning. I wanted the song to end very intimately, so I wanted it to be dry. I didn't want there to be any reverb or anything. So listen to what's happening on this last phrase.
That I wish I was there with you. That I wish I was there with you. Oh, I wish I was there with you.
So towards the end of that, it starts with reverb, and then by the end of it, it's completely dry. Let's solo it and listen.
That I wish I was there with you. That I wish I was there with you. Oh, I wish I was there with you.
So we get pretty dry there. Okay. So that's primarily what's happening on the lead vocal. We have a lead for the verses. We have a lead for the choruses, and then we have 2 more leads that are just stereo. One is panned hard left, one is panned hard right. So let's listen to this chorus vocal, and about halfway through, I'll add these 2 Dua backgrounds so you can hear what the backgrounds are doing.
You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know, I know, I know. You give me a meaning, something I can breathe in. I know, I know, I know. It's a bittersweet feeling, longing, and I'm leaving. I go, I go, I go.
Cool. So simple stuff, really. All she did was copy her vocal performance. She didn't copy it down. She re-sang it, right, twice. And then we just pan those hard left and right. And as long as it's a great vocal performance and it lines up perfectly with her main vocal performance, those things are going to glue together pretty well. So that's pretty much all of Dua's vocals. Now, before we get to Chris's vocals, let's look at this one little thing. This reverse reverb. This is an effect that I use all the time. And I was looking for a way to, how could I make, going into that final chorus, the third chorus, how could I make it a little more climactic? We have a new piano performance that's a little louder, a little more dynamic, but I wanted something there. So I'm going to play you this section, and you're going to hear, just listen for this reverse vocal, and then I'll show you how I made it.
I wish I was there with you. That I wish I was there with you. Oh, I wish I was there with you. You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know, I know, I know.
Okay, so you could hear that reverse vocal. Let me play it for you soloed. All right. Simple effect. How did we make it though? Well, everybody has their own way of making a reverse vocal. Some people just sort of take the vocal. Let's see here. Let's create a new, we'll do a stereo and we'll do a mono track. Okay. So the main vocal is like the track that I have titled vocal. Automation will not copy. Let me just change the color of these real quick so you know what we're working on. So this is just the main vocal. So let's listen to this. That's the first line of that phrase. You give me a reason. That's the you. Now I want this reverse vocal to lead into the you, and I want it to sound like it glues together. So here's the way that you can do that. Now, some people will just take this vocal and they will sort of, let's run this, whatever, run that into something called hook. Let's pull this hook. And they will just simply put a, they will simply put a reverb on it and with a long decay, and we'll record it in here.
You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know.
And that's it. Right? And then you would take this and reverse it. Like so. And you get this. Now that's one way of doing it. That's not the way that I do it. And there's a reason for it. Because you're not actually, what you've actually done is now take this vocal and you've reversed that. So it's not leading into it correct way. It's going backwards. It's starting from this point and going here, as opposed to, you know, you want it to be, once you do the reverse, you want it to feel linear, like it's moving forward. So how do you do that? Well, let's put this one aside. Let's move this one back so we can reference it. And let's do this again with this same vocal. But this time, we're going to reverse this vocal first. So we're going to go back in. We're going to go reverse. We're going to take that U sound and reverse it. So here's what it sounds like first. Sorry, here we go. Now we're going to reverse it. We've done the reverse. Now let's hear what it sounds like. And this is with reverb on it. Doesn't sound all that different. Let's record it in. Okay. Now we're going to reverse this again. We're going to move it back. And let's compare the two. You hear the difference there? This one ends with U. U is facing forward. So for me, I like this better because this leads into the U the right way. So we're going to get rid of that one. And that's basically what was done here. And yeah, that's how we get that. So let's close that. And let's listen to it one more time. Now, I could have had the U extend. I kind of wanted it to cut off and have the A reverb go. But, you know, one way that I love to do this, let's mute that, let's unmute this, and let's line up the U to when she actually says U.
You give me. You give me.
So those are perfectly lined up. You'll notice the U, basically the amount that I initially had from the chop that I pulled, is overlapping the U here, and then it should lead in perfectly. So let's listen to both.
You give me a reason, something.
So there you have it. That's my long-winded way of saying reverse vocals, reverse reverb vocals. Very cool. All right, let's mute that stuff. We don't need it anymore. Hide and make that inactive. All right, now let's focus on what Chris is doing. So Chris is just singing background vocals here. He's not the lead performer, but he is meant to be in there and support Dua. And so in the interest of building out production that grows and feels like the song is going somewhere, we don't have any Chris in the first verse and chorus, and he only comes in verse 2. And that's how we help build. So verse 2 feels a little bit bigger, a little bit more dynamic than verse 1. Let's hear what Chris is doing.
There's a crack in my window, a bite in my room.
Angels all over, that watch over you. When I'm walking on water, all my dreams have come true. Nothing means nothing.
I mean, does it get any better than Chris Martin? I mean, the guy's just a genius. So what are we doing? We have a stereo set of vocals here, a stereo set of vocals here. They're both panned 70-70. I didn't want them too far panned. Dua's vocals in the chorus and whatnot are panned wider. I wanted Chris to kind of occupy this middle space so that Dua could sort of wrap around him in the times that she needs to, like in the choruses here. And in the case of the verse, there was some additional vocals that Chris had done that I didn't think were needed, so I muted a couple things there. But for the most part, fairly straightforward. What are we doing on Chris? There's a very, very, very tiny amount of auto-tune. Again, he doesn't need it. It's just about, it's really programming for the average listener. I mean, we're so accustomed to hearing perfectly pitched vocals that sometimes it's necessary to have that. But for the most part, it's not doing a whole lot. We have a bit of de-essing, again, very subtle. A bit of EQ, nothing crazy here. We're boosting, what is that? 6.36K, so 6,300 hertz. Boosting that about 4.5 dB on a bell curve. We're boosting 4.5K, about 3 dB, et cetera, et cetera. There's a little bit of low end boosting around 250 as well. And then a bit of compression. Let's see.
There's a crack in my window, a bite in my room.
So he's getting about 3 dB of compression there. Then I've got a second compressor. I always do this. A few more dB here.
There's a crack in my window.
You know, 2.5 dB of compression there, 2.8 dB. And then what else? Again, another de-esser, just catching some of these added S's, very high, 13K. And then there's a bit of additional EQing, which I suspect was usually when I see an EQ at the end here, I don't always remember. Usually this is a mix note. And Chris was probably like, let's take some of the high off my vocal, which is what we did. And let's boost some of the low, which we boosted some of that low 60 hertz, similar to what we did on Dua, to make it feel like a more intimate performance and no compression happening there. And these are, I'm sure, all copied down. Let's just see real quick. Is it the same on every channel? Looks like it to me. Yeah, it's the same on every channel. And then as far as the effects, similar to Dua, we've got the A reverb, the large hall, the C, that sizzly reverb. We have a long delay, quarter note, and then we have a slap and a doubler. Why don't I go through these time-based effects, and I can sort of, you can hear what each reverb sounds like, and then yeah, then I'll show you what I'm doing on the master. All right, so on Chris, here we go. So this is Chris dry with no reverb, and then I will add one at a time.
You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know, I know, I know.
All right, so let's start. Sorry, the reason you're getting the delay there is because there's automation on it. So what I'll do is I will just completely make those inactive so you won't hear the delay. First, before I add the big reverbs, I'm going to add the slap delay and the doubler, so you can hear very subtle, but what it's doing to the vocal and how it's giving it some stereo image.
You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know, I know, I know. You give me a meaning, something I can breathe in. I know, I know, I know.
So I don't know if you could hear the difference there. I'll play it again. The first bar or half bar will have no slap, no doubler, and then try to see if you can hear it.
You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know, I know, I know.
Very subtle. Okay. The large hall, what's that doing?
You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know, I know, I know.
Cool. And let's hear what the silica beads is doing.
You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know, I know, I know.
You get that nice little sizzly effect. Very subtle. Okay. That's pretty much all of the vocal effects there. These additional, well, of course, they all have the long delay. We know what a long delay sounds like. It's just a quarter note delay. Pretty straightforward. If you want to hear it, here we go.
It means nothing. You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know, I know, I know.
And let's hear the delay by itself, just because we can.
You give me a meaning, something I can breathe in. I know, I know, I know.
So again, nothing crazy here. It's really not rocket science. And it all comes together to make a great song. All right, so finally, the last thing, the master fader. What are we doing? Well, I have a Slate virtual mix bus. This is just adding some, I guess some like, basic saturation and stuff towards the end. I have this virtual tape machines, again, trying to, because it's such a simple song, give it some character, give it a little bit of noise, a little bit of imperfection. So we have this tape machine on it. And then a little bit of saturation, very subtle setting. I will play you towards the end of the song here. I'll bypass everything and you can hear what all of that is doing.
You give me a reason, something to believe in. I know, I know, I know. You give me a meaning, something I can breathe in. I know, I know, I know. It's a bittersweet feeling, longing, and I'm leaving. I go, I go, I go. Tell my heart to lie, but I know deep inside it's true.
So, of course, it's adding a bit of volume, which might, trick the ears just a little bit, but not a whole lot. It's really just adding some fullness to the entire performance. And I think it really, really finishes it off nicely. And, of course, I'm not doing any limiting on this. So, anyways, that is Homesick by Dua Lipa featuring Chris Martin on Dua's first album. A really wonderful song, and it just shows that you can really get a great sounding mix with simple stuff. And beyond just the mix, the production. You don't need a million sounds to make an amazing song. Just a really good vocal and a really good piano and a really good song, sometimes that's all you need. So I would encourage you guys to, when you're starting your songs, this is the same way that I start when I write. Pick up a guitar, pick up a piano, find a loop, find that one sound that gives you the energy and the feeling, the emotion that you're going for, and then write your song to one sound, one piano, one guitar. And then if it needs it, you build around that. And that allows you to focus on the songwriting first, because at the end of the day, I don't care about all the production tips and tricks and bells and whistles and all the things that make polished production feel polished. If the song that you're producing is no good, then it doesn't matter anyways. So this is a great way of writing a great song. If it stands on its own against a guitar or a piano and nothing else, then you know you have a great song, and this is one of those songs. Anyways, I'm DJ Swivel. Till the next In the Mix. Peace.